All right, good morning, everyone. Our guest speaker this morning is a graduate from the Coast Guard Academy. So for a lot of y'all, this will probably have a lot of significance, so listen to him carefully. He graduated in 2019 and is currently serving as a student naval aviator at the Naval Air Station Whitneyfield. There he's learning how to fly helicopters such as the HH-60J and the HH-65. Furthermore, he's aided in hurricane relief missions as well as search and rescue missions. He's a proud GMC alumni who went off and achieved great things, and he's here to tell us a little bit about his journey. So, without further ado, Lieutenant Junior Grade Raymond.
Right. How's everyone doing? Good morning, good morning. Do we say hua here? Is that what we do? Heck yeah. I haven't been here in 8 years. I just want to say it's a complete honor to be here before you all. I'm just going to pretty much kind of go through my journey, kind of who I am, my family, getting here to GMC, going to the Coast Guard Academy, being on a boat, and then in flight school, and just kind of like the lessons I've learned and all that fun sort of stuff. All right. Let's see if this works. Sweet. So this is my beautiful wife on the left. She's sitting right over there on the right. Vanessa, if you want to just wave a little bit. And this is my family, mom, dad, and sister. And the photo in the back is from where I'm from the Bay Area. But, you know, these are the most important people to me. But the reason why I bring this up is because my dad actually back in the day was a dental tech in the Navy. And coming upon his medals is why I wanted to serve. He wanted to be an officer, but it didn't work out. But his dream became mine, and at a high school, I tried to go to the Naval Academy. SAT scores weren't too good, and all that sort of stuff. Trying to get a nomination from California was a little bit difficult, so I didn't get it. So what I did was I went to community college, and I basically took a lot of the same classes they took the first year to try to become more competitive, try to get in. And as God had it planned out, the Coast Guard Academy gave me a shot. And then that's what led me here to Georgia Military College. This was, 8 years ago when I had a little bit more hair. My metabolism was a little bit better, 20 pounds lighter. But I want to talk about GMC and the foundation that I learned here at this institution. GMC was kind of the first place I really had structure, very regiment schedule, go here, do this, do that. Was the first place where I really had to learn how to manage my time. Was the place where I had to learn how to be away from home. As soon as you have maybe deal with homesickness and all that good stuff. And it was also one of the places where I had to learn to pick my battles. So, excuse me. What I'm trying to get out with this story is that they found out that I had a year of community college. So they're like, hey, let's get this guy an associate's degree. So second quarter, it was like 26 credits, a whole bunch of classes. And I went into Colonel Clayton's office. I was like, sir, I want to talk about my schedule. He's like, go talk to your academic advisor. So I went to my academic advisor, and I was like, hey, sir, I want to talk about my schedule. He's like, you're going to take these classes. And you don't ever do this, but I told him, I was like, I don't think so. Next thing you know, we're going to the dean. We're just like I'm arguing, hey, I'm here for the scholars program. I'm here for just to get into the academy. I'm not here to try to get my associate's degree. Like my priority is just to go to the academy, right? Long story short, they called, his name was Lieutenant Harold. He was like in charge of our scholar program. And he calls and he's like, military bearing plays a huge factor in you getting to the academy. You're going to take those classes. So I called my dad. I'm like pissed off. I'm like all upset. And he gave me two options. He's like, look, son, you can do those classes and finish it out, or we'll figure it out. We can bring you back home to California. So what I'm getting at is, I ended up taking those classes, right? I ended up getting my associate's degree, right? I think I was like one of the first scholars to get my associate's degree. But I bring up this story for a couple of reasons. One is to pick your battles. Be careful about, about that sort of stuff too. But, following your dream and sometimes taking the harder road, those more classes and all that stuff ended up being better. I got my associate's degree, so those 2 years didn't go to waste. I really had to hone in on my time management because I was taking much more classes. And I ended up, being an alumni, here I am, being able to speak before you all. So sometimes the harder route at the time may not be what you want, but it might be the best thing. So just really hone in on that time management, putting your nose to the grindstone and trying to get towards your dreams, whatever it is, whatever goals you guys have. So that led to the good old Coast Guard Academy. In the top right photo is the Bark Eagle. It's a warship that we took from the Nazis after World War II. It's used as a training vessel. And I actually got to sail across the Atlantic Ocean. We went from, my classmates took it from New London to Ireland to London, and then we flew all the way to London, went to Portugal, Madeira, all the way down to the Bahamas, and then back to Virginia. So we crossed the Atlantic Ocean on that thing. A lot of these people here in this photo were scholars, whether they went to GMC or Marion Military Institute, but that's when we were cadre for CGAS and yelling at people. And then my family, right? I got to do some cool things. One of the things I got to do was I went to the Air Force Academy on exchange. I got my jump wing, so that's me with a parachute and altimeter in my hand. That's I think who's Air Force here? You got some Air Force cats? Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. Colorado Springs is absolutely great. And then at the time, that was the superintendent, General Severa, I think, in the right photo with a couple exchanges from Columbia. So I bring up this because one of the best experiences I had, but it was probably one of the toughest too. When I was there, prior to going there was an individual who went there a year before on exchange. We're one of 5 coasties that go every year. In the class ahead of me, one of the guys who was another Mechie, he gave me some notes for some class. And, I'm a little nervous. So long story short, I get called into one of my teachers' class, and he has my homework. He has my homework and another homework of another student of my partner. And he's like, hey, do you guys have like a solutions manual? We're like, no, sir. Do you use CHEG? Anything? No. And then he was like, hey, do you have like any notes from previous years? And I was like, yeah, like someone the year before gave me some notes. And he was like, that violates the syllabus. That violates the academic policy. We're going to put you on he was like, you have 24 hours to report for like honor. And I was like, what? So I told him, I was like, sir, like the work is mine. We were just referencing the notes. If you want to give me like a 0 on the homework, on the 0, like, and all the other homework, it was like the second week of being in Air Force. He was like, no, I don't get paid enough to do that. Like, you got 24 hours to go report to your honor officer. And we're freaking out because we're coasties, we're at a new school. We're supposed to be representing our service, right? And here we are bringing dishonor. So when we got back to the academy, they had a mass. It was kind of like a captain's mass. And with the captain's mass is kind of like a trial. And this was my punishment. So 180 demerits, and to kind of put that in perspective, yeah, as a second class or junior, the max you can get is 200. So if you get 200 demerits, you get recommended for disenrollment. 10 days room restriction, so I didn't have a phone. I could go to and from my room to class, to the bathroom, but like basically just being a prisoner in my room. 48-day room admin restriction, so just being stuck on base, being in my uniform from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., going to like RCF, restricted cadet formation. 45 marching tour, so that's like 45 hours of boring. 20 work hours, suitably for service, so it's like being on probation for a year. Auto remediation, loss of civies, car, like any like privileges that you earn as an upper class, lost. And then a recommendation for disenrollment. My family was there at the chapel, and I remember just when I told them that, I was like, it's over. I was like 5 years down the drain, like I don't know if I could ever get through this. They pieced me back together somehow, and they were like, we're gonna fight this. And we did, right? We fought the good fight, and I ended up graduating. So I bring up this story for a couple of reasons. The first one is attention to detail, right? Never drop your guard. Read everything to a T. Pay attention to notes. Pay attention to whatever that contract is between you and your teacher, and never, ever try to have your honor in question, especially as an upperclassman, because there was like a 5% chance of me staying and a 90% chance of me getting booted. But we fought the good fight. And that's another thing I want to bring up too, is never giving up, right? Even when you feel like you're down and out, when life gets tough, when you're facing adversity, right? For me, I went back to God, family, and a few friends. Those individuals were there for me and picked me up and got me through. It was honestly the probably darkest and hardest time of my life, right? But when things get hard now, whether it's on the boat, whether it's in flight school, whether life in general, I reflect back on that time that was really tough. I'm like, well, I got through that. I can get through this. Or I put things back in perspective. So I bring that up again just for like attention to detail. Going back on God, family, a few friends when things get tough, reach out. Go rely back on those individuals that'll get you through that. And just never giving up, right? Fighting the good fight. It's not over till the fat lady sinks. I think that's what they say. So then that brings me to my first unit. I was on the Coast Guard cutter Resolute. This thing is old. This thing was built in like 1966. It's 57 years old, but she's still out there doing the mission. So it's a 210-foot cutter stationed out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Has a crew of about 76 people. And I have a little notes of actually what we did. So I did 5 patrols. I was there for 18 months prior to getting orders to flight school. Did 5 patrols. When I was on the boat, we seized 1,519 kilos of cocaine. So to put it in perspective, a kilo of cocaine is about $60,000 to $70,000, depending on where you're at and selling it. So it was worth like $106 million of just cocaine confiscated. 1,100 pounds of marijuana, so over 1,000 pounds of marijuana. We were there for Hurricane Dorian, helping out with that. And being an LSO, a landing signal officer, we did over like 600 helicopter evolutions, so landing aircraft like that on the flight deck, taking it on and off. So really good time. But and then I left with an achievement medal and got orders to flight school. But I want to talk about. Oh gosh, my watch is telling me something. So the only reason why I was successful was because of my crew, the people I was in charge of. And I'm not going to lie, it's really intimidating. You're going to go to your first unit, whether as a second lieutenant or an ensign, brand new out of the fleet. You're going to be in charge of a lot of people right out the gate. I think I had a division of 7 people, and then later on I became a department head. I had a department of like 25 out of the 76 crew members. And it's intimidating because, you know, you're taught leadership and all these things when you're at school here, the academy, but leadership is really hard. It's really hard. I'm still trying to figure it out. But the best advice I can tell you is when you go to these units, when you go and you're leading people, is a couple of things. One, be humble. What I mean by be humble is don't ever let your position, your rank, whatever, get over your head. You know, always treat people with respect. And also to take care of your people, to get to know them, to find out their interests, you know, what they really care about, and motivate them that way. Don't motivate them with positional power. Say, hey, do this, do that, and like, you know, like threaten them. Like, use it with referent power, where they want to be led by you, where they're inspired by you, where you guys are a unified team. Because that's how I went. I went to my first division, and they were like E6s, so they were in the game for 17, 18, 15 years, and I mean, I'm brand new. And I told them, I said, look, this is your shop. You run it how you want to run it. I'm going to do my best to learn your job. I'm going to do my best to work hard and to support you all. And let me know what I can do. And we had a really good relationship. But the only reason why I'm here today, the only reason why I have some ribbons on my chest, the only reason why I got to flight school was because I had a really good team that supported me. I supported them. So don't forget that whenever you go and you lead people, to be humble and to work hard and to take care of your folks. All right. And here are some of the individuals. So some of my classmates or people who are younger, some of the other young JOs up top. I had some of my operational specialists, OS1, OS1, OS2, OS3, OS1 over there, and then my chief for whenever I became deck department, Chief Clever C. So really relying on your NCOs and your team, that'll lead you really far. Some good photos. All right, now I'm in naval flight training, right? So in this photo down here, or in the top right photo is when I got my flight suit. After swimming a mile in a flight suit nonstop, after taking 5 exams in 3 weeks, after just kind of going through trying to weed people out. After getting through that and earning your flight suit. Down here, it's when I had a solo in the T6 This thing has 1,100 horsepower. When you're doing like aerobatics and all that, you're probably going close to 300 miles an hour. So it's a beast of an aircraft. But this is on my solo, so I took this thing out by myself, landed it, and didn't have to eject or anything of that crazy sort. And then over here, it's me and my flight partner of that day. This is when we soloed a helicopter, right? So right now, as I was introduced, I'm learning to fly helicopters in hopes of, getting my wings of gold and of doing search and rescue missions and help saving people, right? But what I've learned about naval flight training is three things. Tenacity, right? Being the strong desire to, just being really determined, right? Tenacity. Respect because if you make one mistake or if things go down south and if you have some type of emergency, like you have to respect these aircraft because these things will kill you in a nanosecond. You know what I mean? So respect in that an aspect and like never laying your guard down, knowing your emergency procedures cold, paying attention to detail, and just knowing all that good stuff. And then the third thing is passion, right? I've seen a lot of people who started the program that are no longer there just because it gets too hard. The 12-hour turnarounds, a lot of studying, a lot of late nights, the right passion. But I say these three things because I feel like it could be applied to any goal, any interest that you guys have. Have passion for it, work hard, be really determined, and respect it too. Right. With that, I'm going to open up the floor to any questions. Really appreciate your guys' time. Really, it's an honor to be here. I hope that you guys kind of learn from my mistakes, my successes, my failures, and you're able to apply that in your guys' own endeavors. All right. What we got? I know there got to be some questions. Come on. What do we got? Actually, come up here. Because you're the first one, you get a challenge coin. Yeah, I'll just come down here.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
When you were on the Cutter Resolute,
Yeah.
What was like your day-to-day life, sir?
Day-to-day life. So it kind of changes. But when you're in port, the ship is home and you're getting ready to go on patrol. But when you're not qualified, you do something called a 1 and 3. So you stay on duty for 24 hours, you're off for 2 days, not off for 2 days because you still have to come in during the workday, but then you're on duty for 24 hours again. So in port, it's a lot of like admin work, it's a lot of getting ready for the next patrol, but you usually come in around 6 a.m. and get out of work around 4 p.m., 5 p.m., whatever. So some long days, and then when you have duty, you're there all day trying to break in, get qualified. And then when you're underway, honestly, it just depends. When you're not qualified, you stand on 1 and 3, so you're standing 8 hours of duty a day. And a lot of times they put you on the 4 to 8s to really motivate you to get qualified. So 4 to 8s is you get up at like 3 in the morning, you stand watch from 3:30 to 7:30, you go through your workday, you stand watch again from 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., you get a couple hours of sleep, whatever, and then you get up again at 3:30. So underway when you're not qualified is a little bit tougher. When you are qualified, you're actually on the rotation, you're actually being a part of the crew, you're actually able to contribute. So you're not standing 8 hours of duty a day, maybe 4 hours of duty. But it all depends, Some days are really, really chill, and you're out there just like doing fish calls and trying to catch mahi-mahi in the Caribbean. But then, stuff pops up, and you have a motor vessel that's suspected to have drugs, and then you intercept them, and now you're confiscating 500 kilos of cocaine. But it's a whole process and jurisdiction, and it's an all-hands evolution, right? So it depends, but there's a lot of benefit to being underway and doing the mission.
My question is, what was the hardest part of your life at the academy, and how did you kind of get through that?
The hardest part, it was kind of that story I told. After I got masted and I had that punishment, getting through that was the hardest. I was a mechie, so I was studying mechanical engineering. I was a junior. It was I had my upper division classes, but I was restricted. I was trying to crank out these marching tours, work hours. I wasn't really sleeping a lot. I was pulling all-nighters, trying to get lab reports done, and still trying to balance everything out. So just like the academic workload on top of the punishment, that was definitely the hardest. But like I said, God, family, a few friends really pulled me through. and I was able to kind of overcome that. So, yeah, that was probably the toughest. But it's just, yeah, don't get in trouble. What else we got?
Cadets, do not start talking until you have the mic in your hand. It's being recorded. You need to know that to make sure that everybody can hear what your question is.
Hello, sir. My name's Cadet Schaefer. I had a question if you could go into detail between your transition from the Resolute to Naval Air Force, Naval Flight School.
Yeah. So after I left the cutter, I took a whole month of leave. So for those 30 days, I pretty much tried to get my life in order. My wife and I, we got married. We moved out there. We got settled, and we just tried to. We took the whole month of February off to just kind of get things in order. For flight school, it's one of those things where I was telling Colonel Clayton, it's either you're off or you're in it. So when you're off, you're just totally free, hands off. You have free time. You're going to the beach or just hanging out, having a good time with your buddies. But when you're in it and you start classes and you're starting to fly and you need a brief, you're fully invested. So that transition time wasn't bad. I mean, it was just kind of just getting everything settled and getting ready for it. And then a little bit like before I really started to class up, I started studying a little bit here and there. My big concern was the swim. I was never a really good swimmer. And when they said I'll have to swim a whole mile in a flight suit nonstop, can't touch the walls, can't touch the bottom of the pool, I was like, ooh, that's going to be tough. So I was spending a lot of time in the pool every day, just swimming a mile. So when, that time came and I had to go swim a mile, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it took me forever, right, being 230 pounds and definitely really slow on the water. I'm not a fish. But, yeah, so I hope that answered your question. Going on little tangents. Come on, what else we got? There got to be something. All right, you got to wait for the mic, though. All right.
I'm Cadet Brian Johnson, State Service.
Heck yeah.
So, other than fishing, what else did you guys do to maybe like pass by the time whenever you guys were on ship? Maybe like for fun?
Yeah. We had like a lot of different morale events. So sometimes we had like cornhole tournaments. Fishing was probably one of the bigger ones, but we would have about 1 to 2 weeks prior to getting to like a port call. So I forgot to actually mention that. We ended up going to some pretty cool places before COVID happened and we were stuck in Guantanamo Bay. But I've been to Key West, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Belize City, Belize, Roatan, Honduras, Golfito, Costa Rica, Panama City, Panama, and like I said, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So we would look forward to those port calls. That was a lot of fun. And then cornhole, or just like fishing, or just like, or maybe like board games down in the mess deck. So, or like video game tournaments too. So we try to do like and watch movies a lot too. So we try to like do things that pass the time. But being an officer, and when you find yourself being a young JO, you're going to find yourself when you're not trying to work on getting qualified and whatever your main job is, you might have a lot of different collateral duties. And you're going to be spending a lot of your free time typing up memos, doing investigations, or just a lot of, not busy work, but a lot of admin work that you're going to have to crank out. So, but there were also some good activities you'd be a part of too. Yeah, you get the mic.
Good morning, sir.
Hey.
Benning Rojas, United States Naval Scholar. So I just wanted to ask you, you said you were a GMC cadet first before going to the academy, and you also did the exchange program at the Air Force Academy. Do you still keep in contact with the kids you met at GMC as well as the kids you met at Air Force who are now officers in their own service and all that? You guys still talk?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's really awesome about where you guys are at is you're going to make some really good friendships that, I still talk to. Some of the leadership that was here at GMC. One of my best buds, his name is Luke Torres, and he actually lives in Tampa. He was the sergeant major back in the day. He was like an ECP cadet and all that good stuff. But like we're still really good. We still really talk a lot. When I went to Air Force, I've met a group of guys that are awesome, and we still keep in contact too. I think it's over February 20th. They're all going to go to New Orleans and celebrate Mardi Gras. But we're going to go celebrate our second-year anniversary at Disney World, so we're passing out on that. But what I'm getting at is that you're going to meet some awesome friends, whether it's here at GMC, whether it's at the Naval Academy, if you go on exchange, or if you go to some colleges around here, you're going to But with that too, it's one of those things that you gotta, put into those relationships, right? If someone really matters, call them up, shoot them a text, keep that relationship going, don't let it die off. Because I met a lot of people, but my really close friends, people I keep in contact with, it's kind of more smaller. But yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, morning.
I'm Cadet IE. I'm a state service/ECP cadet. And my question to you was, you mentioned that you had to stay and get your associates before moving on. So how did that set you up for your next adventure? And did you go ahead to get your bachelor's and master's later on?
Yeah, so getting my associates here, I feel like really set me up because I really had to put my book my nose to the grindstone. I really had to dedicate a lot of time studying to make sure I passed those classes to get, from GMC to the academy. But building those steady habits, learning what really works for me, like flashcards or, writing things out. Like I learned that through taking all those classes and really learning how to manage my time. So that enabled me to get my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering at the Coast Guard. And then now that, the study habits, I'm still using them every day for flight school because you go and you study your butt off and you get prepared for a flight. You sit in a brief and you get just, the instructor's drilling you for an hour just trying to figure out what you know and don't know. And then you got to go fly, and then you have a 12-hour turnaround where you have 12 hours to study, eat, sleep, spend time with the wife, and then get ready for the brief, right? But what I'm getting at is that GMC, my study habits, the time management really set that foundation that enabled me to succeed at the Coast Guard Academy and now be able to succeed here in flight school. So, but hopefully master's is the next one. Just got to get through flight training first. We got a question in the back, right?
Good morning, sir.
Hey.
Cadet Luke Devano, who's Alpha Scholar. You mentioned before about your building a relationship with your NCOs, and you said how it's like their ship and you're going to learn from them. Is there anything else you can kind of offer about how you built that trust and respect with them, even though you're younger?
Yeah, I think going back to being humble and humility, right? Going in there, just basically letting them know, I don't know much, right? I don't know all the technical things that you do. I don't know the specific jobs that you do. And I want to learn from you. I want to learn from your 17 years of experience. I want to learn everything that you have to offer. But also backing up what you're saying, right? Coming up early, asking questions, being eager, taking notes, showing interest, right? And when they see that work ethic, when they see you care, when they see that passion, when they see that drive, that's where you earn the trust, right? So you kind of lay it out up front by being humble and saying, hey, I don't really know much, but I want to learn, teach me what you know, but then you back it up with your actions. And with that, we'll build the trust. With that, we'll build that good relationship, and then you'll start to learn the job, and then you're going to be able to support them and back them up, and you'll be a good unified team moving forward. But just going in with humility and then backing it up with actions. All right, we got another one. Sweet.
Morning, sir. I'm a Coast Guard scholar. I was just wondering what the day-to-day life was if you were to take cyber systems for your major, and how it was.
Take cyber systems? Mm-hmm. I don't know too much, to be honest. I feel like depending on your major and the kind of route that you take, it's going to have its own challenges. I feel like maybe when you get in your upper division, like for typical, let me backtrack. A typical schedule for me is get up at 5:50, go to formation at 6:20. We eat breakfast till 7. And then you have a military training time. You're at that from 7 to 8. And then I was usually in classes from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. doing my sport. I played rugby and ran track a little bit. And that was from 4 to 6. Dinner 6 to 7, and then just from 7 to 12, 1, 2, whatever it took to get the job done, studying at night. So I can imagine it, depending on how intense your major is, being something similar to that. If that helps out. But usually academics are just from 8 to 4. But if you just have a short day, maybe it's just from 8 to 12, or you just have 2 classes a day and it's from 11 to 3. It all depends. No questions? All right. I really appreciate you guys. Hopefully this was insightful. You guys were able to learn something, and keep up the good job. Go Dogs. Cool.